Right now, I want to welcome to the program Bob Owens from Pajamas Media, the Confederate Yankee. And Bob, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm very happy that I moved back to North Carolina from New York, so I didn't have to go through all those hoops.
Hey, I'm headed down North Carolina next week, as a matter of fact.
Oh, where are you going to be?
Over by the coastline for a week or
Sounds
so.
like fun.
Yeah, I love North Carolina. If I didn't live in Virginia, I just think it's a great state. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina for the NRA annual meeting last year and just had a great time. Looking forward to heading back there at some point. It's nice to live in a place with relative freedom, especially if you were living in a state like New York beforehand.
Yeah, it sure is.
All right, so let's talk about the latest in Fast and Furious because we've got another front page story from the LA Times today talking about these ATF supervisors who have now been promoted. These were individuals who were, according to the administration, directly involved in the operation of Fast and Furious. And as the scandal emerged, they didn't get fired; they got booted upstairs.
It's kind of like the Peter Principle with white chalk outlines.
It really is. I mean, Now, Senator John Cornyn, who last week wrote a letter to Attorney General Eric Holder asking him to come clean about any Fast and Furious style tactics used in the Lone Star State, is also bashing these revelations. He said, quote, "Until Attorney General Eric Holder and Justice Department officials come clean on all alleged gun-walking operations, including a detailed response to allegations of a Texas-based scheme, it is inconceivable to reward those who spearheaded this disastrous operation with cushy desks in Washington." So Bill Newell, who is the former Phoenix field supervisor, David Voth, and William McMahon, the deputy director of operations for ATF in the West, are all now at ATF headquarters in Washington, D.C.
They are, and it's really interesting. I had a little bit of email conversation with Vince Cefalo from who's a former ATF whistleblower who was recently fired by the administration.
After 24 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had a little email exchange today, and he says these guys really weren't promoted. These are more or less lateral entry moves to pull them in close to D.C. to shield them from the public. So basically to keep them away from media access. Basically,
really?
They're trying to shut them up.
Wow. Now, I have heard Bill Newell, the former special agent in charge of the Phoenix office, was actually supposed to go down to Mexico.
That is true.
He was supposed to be ATF's attaché to Mexico, but one of the reasons why he's not gone down there is you have politicians in Mexico who are pretty ticked off about Fast and Furious, who are calling for the arrest of any officials connected with Fast and Furious. So you send a guy like that down there, all of a sudden a major diplomatic incident may ensue.
Oh, yeah. You're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 counts of accessory to murder that he would likely be charged with. And that would kind of throw a damper on things for the Obama administration and make it really tough for the media to sweep this under the radar. So they did what is the smart thing from their perspective and rein these guys in and have their leashes very, very short so that they can keep a better eye on them than they did their boss, who managed to sneak out and testify to Congress on July 4th.
Yeah, and now with these revelations, which I think again are not incredibly new information, but the Los Angeles Times and a lot of the mainstream media it does tend to be playing catch up in terms of how the new media is covering Fast and Furious. I'm glad that they're covering it. It does provide, I think, sort of a new perspective when Congress returns next month, and we'll get more House oversight hearings. Because, again, the one concrete response that we've seen from the administration to Fast and Furious has been, as you said, the termination of Vince Cefalo, an agent with 24 years of field experience, and the move, lateral or otherwise, of the three supervisors to ATF headquarters in Washington, D.C. As far as I know, Bob, and you tell me if you've heard anything different, it's not like we've seen the Department of Justice, speed up the dissemination of documents and emails and other things connected to Fast and Furious. They're still engaged in what appears to be stonewalling mode.
Very much in stonewalling filing mode. They have no interest at all in coming clean. And I heard some stuff that I have not been able to confirm today. That I'm not really at liberty to say too much more about it. But it looks like things are about to get a lot worse for the administration.
Oh, really?
Again, I can't confirm anything, so I don't, want to get folks riled up in case it turns out to be a bum tip. But there may be the existence of some evidence or some testimony that points further up the food chain than we thought had previously we had evidence to support.
Okay. You've piqued my curiosity, Bob, because, already the food chain goes up at least to the National Security Council, where we've got a staffer who apparently talked with Bill Newell a couple of times about Fast and Furious. That's what Newell told the House Oversight Committee. So I hate to play, is it bigger than a bread box, but are we talking higher up the food chain than that?
Not certain.
Okay.
I wish I had more. I would give you guys everything I've got. It's just I really don't know what these guys have got and how credible of a source they are. So it looks real interesting. And there's a recent, these guys over at the LA Times have been doing some really good work, especially Richard Serrano out of the Washington Bureau, who pretty much got this story going. They just posted another one that is going to be huge and ties in to what Senator Cornyn was talking about. They just have proven that 11 more violent crimes have been committed with gun walker firearms in Arizona and Texas.
11 more. And God knows how many more it's going to be before all is said and done, Bob.
Exactly. And this really, really starts to ramp up pressure on some allegations I made over a month ago about there being 2 more Fast and Furious operations, or evidence pointing to the probability of 2 more Fast and Furious operations running out of the Houston and the Dallas field operations areas.
Well, and again, that was something that Senator Cornyn referred to in his comments, and he's written that letter to Attorney General Eric Holder. And, the one defense that we've heard so far, Bob, about Fast and Furious from the administration is, well, this was a local operation, locally planned, locally developed, locally executed, had no counterparts, no other investigations in the United States were utilizing these same sort of tactics. If that is proven to be false, then frankly, again, what little credibility the administration has had, I think just gets washed away.
It really does. And then you look at the fact that if it is that widespread, who authorized it? Who has the authority in justice, in Homeland Security, and in the Treasury Department to authorize these sort of operations? Would it be somebody above Treasury and Justice and DHS who authorized this? And if that's the case, they're too much higher than cabinet level positions.
Yeah, I think you're right. And look at some of the names that we've already heard to this point. Lanny Brewer, who is the Assistant Attorney General overseeing the criminal division of the Department of Justice. That's one level beneath Eric Holder. Deputy Attorney General Cole has also been referenced regarding Fast and Furious. So you've already got some big names. And frankly, individuals who are in contact with cabinet-level positions like Attorney General Eric Holder, but we don't have that definitive link yet.
We don't, but we have time.
Mm-hmm.
And time is on our side. There seems to be an increase in the chatter for folks inside the Department of Justice. Are starting to see that they're not going to be able to keep containment on this. There are rumors that folks are starting to lawyer up with private lawyers and maybe looking for an out.
Interesting. All right. Well, listen, Bob, it is a tangled web that they have woven, but I think we're in the process of untangling it now, and Lord only knows what we'll find before all is said and done. Glad you could join us this evening, sir, and look forward to talking again very soon.
Thanks for having me, Cam.
All right. Bob Owens, the Confederate Yankee from Pajamas Media, joining us here on Cam and Company.